Welcome to the Walk in Victory podcast, where we sit you at the feet of the masters. My name is Carla, and I'm excited to introduce you to our host Naron Tillman, recording from the bustling borough of Queens, New York. On this show, we dive deep into the journeys of individuals who have overcome tremendous challenges to achieve their goals. Through their stories, we hope to provide you with inspiration, guidance, and strategies for your own journey towards victory. So get ready to learn from the masters themselves as we explore the triumphs and struggles that make success possible. Let's dive in. And now here's our host, Naron Tillman.
Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time it is where you're at, but it's your boy, your host, Naron Tillman, and we are here for another episode of Walk in Victory. You ever complain about something and like I was just telling our guests, it's cold in New York. I was like, it's getting cold in New York, and then they tell you their cold experience in the same time, and you're like, I'm sorry, I take that back. It's like we always judge things according to where we are, and without taking into consideration where other people are in life, and that's cool because we judge from our own experiences, and we make decisions from our own personal experiences, and we think the world sees everything according to our own experiences, and everything that we're involved in, everything that we're going through becomes the echo center of everything, right? So what are you trying to say? If we have a homeless problem here in New York, and because of the war, the homeless problem increased. So now everyone is talking about what are we going to do with this homeless situation? But there's always been a homeless problem. It's just now we have more people that added to the problem, and it just magnified the problem. But the problem always existed. It wasn't never not a problem. The problem didn't just start happening. It's just now magnified because people are starting to talk about it, right? And it's affecting them, whether it's the politicians having persons dropped off at their door, or whether it's the media sensationalizing or over sensationalizing the situation. And they do so within the vacuum. They do so within the moment. Case in point, when things start to happen and that affects them or to affect their bottom line, they now can hear what's happening to affect you and your bottom line. And they're like, oh yeah, this has been going on forever, but no one was really talking about it because it didn't really matter at that time. And what happens is we over sensationalize what we're going through personally. If you're having a bad day, you just assume that everybody's having a bad day, right? If you're having financial problems, like, oh, everybody's broke. Let me tell you something. Everybody's not broke. Everybody's not going through a recession. People are still making money when the market goes up and when the market goes down. People continue to buy and sell houses during the bubble, the recession. Like, there are people who still prospering regardless of what's going on because their bottom line was not directly affected and or connected by other people's personal worldviews. They had set themselves up in order to safeguard against certain things. They have certain systems and principles that other people may not adhere to. They understand trends and markets. They understand how to play things. So they don't panic. They're kind of like a player who doesn't fold under the pressure. Clutch, give me the ball, move out of my way. If I make it, we win. If I miss it, I lose. And everybody doesn't have that gene inside of them. But it's something that can be developed. It's something that can be developed. One of the ways that you develop not falling victim to your worldview, your personal situations and circumstances, is stop attaching ourselves to our past and constantly bringing our past with us in our present. Because most of the time, a lot of times, depending on where you're from, but the things that we hold on to in our past are really hurtful things. So how do we rewrite that? How do we see it differently? Two, start paying more attention to our future, although from a present point of view. We pay attention to where we're looking for, the navigation system is in front of us. Whether I want to be healthy, whether I want to change my financial situation, then we start to attract the things that we are posing our mind towards. When I'm always looking behind me, I'm connecting to that person, whether it's that 5-year-old child, the 15-year-old child. I'm connecting to that situation. I'm never letting it go. And I'm going to attract what I was. The healed person don't want to keep talking about how they felt when they wasn't feeling good, right? Because the new person feels good. The billionaire doesn't want to keep talking about how they ate Doritos and Snicker bars for dinner or whatever their lifestyle was, because the new person doesn't connect to that person anymore. It's not a dual person. It's a new person. It's a new situation. It's a new mindset. It's new. I can't even think the way that I used to think. I can't even prospect the way that I used to. The person that's successful in business can't think like a worker, so they don't process that way. They can't have those conversations, and they're usually it's not that they can't come to the Christmas or the family function. It's just that when they come to the family function or Christmas dinner, they don't fit in anymore because the conversations have changed. You guys are talking about, remember when we used to climb the tree? No, I don't remember that, because my new mind is focusing on where I am and where I'm going, and not necessarily where I've been. Those memories sometimes are good to go back on. But do they serve us? Do they serve where it is that we want to be? That's why walk in victory. The walking is progressive. The end is in the now. And the destination is victory. But what does victory look like for you is individual, right? For everyone's basketball season is opening up. Everyone's going into training camp. Everyone's walking in and they have the same goal as they come into the camp, to win an NBA championship. But out of the 30 some odd teams, 40 teams, how many teams it is, only 4 really know that they can actually obtain that goal. Everyone else come in saying, this is what we want to do. No one comes into camp saying, oh, we're going to lose 20. We're going to lose out of 82 games. We're going to lose 60 this year. Right? No. Because when they're practicing and there's nobody else in the gym but them, and they're practicing against each other, and they're regurgitating the same mistakes and they're doing the same thing, they're like, oh man, we got better, because they're not up against any action. When that ball tips off on Tuesday night and they now have to take their show on the road, and then the reality sets in, they're like, oh wow, we got the same old team. Vacation starts in the mind before it plays out on the court. That's why they call it loser's mentality, because it's a mindset. That's why they call it winner's mentality. It's a mindset. I had to fight against so hard loser's mentality. Still have to fight against it, because the dichotomy of this whole thing is that even if you develop a winner's mentality birthed out of a loser's mentality, or you come from that type of environment where you lack and now you have surplus, the story, although the narrator might change, or the narratives may be different, the story is still within inside of us. And when we tap into those stories, that helps drive us. But do I need to always have an arch enemy in order to be successful? Do I need to always tap into the fact that I didn't have as a child in order to be successful as an adult. Now, after some time, it just has to be, I developed a good business, I developed a good system, and those systems work to serve me. And now this is where I am. And I can duplicate those systems and I can take it in anywhere that I go and I can show it to other people and they can be successful too, because it's not the pain that fueled me. It's the lessons that I learned along the way that helps to transform my mind, that helps me to become disciplined in the area where if I'm successful at one thing, you only need to be successful at one thing in life. You only need to be great at one thing. If you're great at cleaning toilets, you just got to, you can be the best toilet cleaner, come up with solutions, show other people how to clean toilets the way that you do, the way that people already pat you on your back and do. There's a set of people now I'm going to bring on, I guess, told you like to sit you at the feet of the masters, that they look at the children when they're born, and instead of telling the child, you're going to go to school to be this, or you're going to go to school, they look at what the child loves. So they see that the child has an inclination for music. They surround them with music because they want to put them in a place where they can start succeeding as children, start being good at the thing that they like to do. They're not forcing them at 12 years old into a system. They're feeding what they see that the inclination of the child is. Because if they can breed the mindset of success in those formative years, it doesn't matter what's in front of me. Like, when we hear people say, I've been winning all my life, every time I played basketball, I won. Deion Sanders was like, I've been winning all my life. Whether I was in college, when I played baseball, I played football, I played basketball, I won. I don't understand what it means to lose. People get intimidated by that conversation. You know why? Because people are like, that's impossible. How can you? Even if you really felt like that, it's just hearing somebody else say it that makes it like, oh, that person's arrogant. In order to be successful, you have to have a certain level of confidence that borders arrogance, that borders maniacal. You show me a great businessman, I'll show you someone whose children probably like dad's never around. You want me to be around, or you want a car when you're 16? Like, you gotta.
Yeah.
Shakeel, did I say it right?
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
It's a privilege to be here. Thank you for having me.
I said a lot in that time. Is there anything that you want to add?
No, I just enjoyed listening to what you're saying. It's so true. It's a mentality, isn't it? Life is about how you perceive things, how you look at things, and how we as individuals pass that on to the next generation. How they should perceive things. Do they have that winning mentality? Do they have that hunger to succeed? That mental capacity to deal with the obstacles that are placed in front of them? It's a crazy world at the moment. You talk about homelessness and the spotlight being shown on homelessness in America. It's just sad that the spotlight wasn't put on it earlier. People weren't taking note of it earlier. I think it's so crazy right now that working families are struggling all over the world, especially in the Western world. That for me is sad. That for me is bad leadership. For me it's crazy because the way I see things now is that both parents, males, are working harder, females are working harder, and the child is not being nurtured in the way that it maybe previously did. To have those mentalities that you talk about And, who's responsible for that? Because, the working families, they're doing everything right. They're going to work, trying to educate their children, giving them the best they can, and at the same time trying to give 110% of work, and still not being able to survive, still going home and worrying about bills. And then when you see homelessness and when you think of homelessness, you ask yourself, how did they arrive at that point? What was their journey to that destination? And I think most people would be really surprised how they actually arrived there. And was it really their fault? We all take ownership. I'm a big believer in extreme ownership, but I still believe that the circumstances that have been placed on individuals right now, especially in the Western world, where we're developed, it's challenging. It's actually disgusting, if I'm honest. I don't like to use that word, but it's actually disgusting, the pressure that they're put under. And I worry for the next generation, and with what you talk about, whether they will have that mental toughness, whether they will have that resilience, whether they will have that love that they should have been given on a regular basis. People come home, they're stressed, they're tired. I work in a health and safety environment, and before it used to be 50-50, 50% health, 50% safety. Now it's 95% health and 5% safety, and a lot of that health is mental. And are they really present? Or if they're not present at work, are they present at home for their kids? Are they the best version of themselves? Are they on a journey to a destination that they didn't see themselves going to? There's so many questions. And when you talk about that winning mentality, people need that support, and that echoing from generation to generation that you're going to succeed, you're going to be successful, and I hope that we can get it back. I'm in the UK at the moment. Things are not the best. You're in the States. I'm hearing different things. You're talking about homelessness, and it's sad because the reality is we have the funds, the means, the capabilities to eradicate it, but we choose. But the powers above choose not to do that, and that for me is sad.
Yeah, it's sad because, and we're not going to make this doom and gloom, but it's sad because the things that we take for granted, and when they're right in front of our face, and we don't really do anything about them. But you have the power, or you said that you had compassion, and it comes from a lack of compassion and a lack of sensitivity. But speaking of compassion and sensitivity, tell us about what it is that you do, and so we can jump into that conversation and what we're here for.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. And it's places like this, everyday guys like me and you, that we need to raise awareness about these things, and we need to have these open conversations, and listeners need to know that they're not alone. We share their struggles with them. We've maybe at some stage experienced it. Maybe now we have a little bit of success. We're still mindful of the fact that we face those struggles too. And our job as parents, as leaders, is to ensure that they don't face the struggles that we do. That's the way I think. That's my mentality. That the risks that I've taken are because I don't want the next generation to have my struggles. I want them to have that mentality that we can win, and that is I've founded 2 companies now. One of them is a career and business coaching company, and that is our mission is to equip people for success, to create a better version of themselves. And we believe firmly that everybody has and can have a pathway strategy in place to be successful. There's always a way out with the right guidance, with the right support around you. So, yeah, health and safety, it's connected. It's all passions of mine that have created these businesses. It's the well-being of individuals and the challenges that humanity face. We specialize in data analytics. We're in a war. I get a lot of criticism, and I got a lot of criticism when I first started this journey into data analytics. But we are in a war against machines, and we have to be mindful of that. We're still in the denial stage that machines are trying to replace us, and we have to accept that we have to upskill. So that's my whole kind of philosophy in terms of business, is that let's not look to disrupt and replace humans' skill. Let's look to complement it and advance human skill. And that philosophy is my mantra, really. That's what I believe in. And I think that everybody that I speak to understands that now as well. There is a lot of people still in denial, but they understand that they need to advance themselves so that they can be successful in their journey towards their destination, if that makes sense.
When you say advance themselves, what are some of the things that we should be looking to do in order to stay competitive or to stay with the curve? Because that curve is, the goalpost is forever moving.
Yeah. It's a really difficult question to answer, because first of all, businesses and organizations need to recognize that there is a possibility and potential to upskill humans, rather than looking, how do we replace this with a machine? How do we replace this with artificial intelligence? Can we not spend a little bit of time, spend a little bit of money, upskill individuals, give them better training, give them better awareness, better understanding, so that they can be in a position to do the job? We'll always look, there's certain aspects that, there's no argument for introducing artificial intelligence, because the work activity is too dangerous. However, if it's found that we can simply upskill individuals so that they can do the work activity in a safe, healthy environment with good practices and good procedures in place, then that's going to be the first thing that we have to do. But businesses have to look at ways of doing that. They need to deep dive into their business and find out, right, where is it we need to improve? A lot of people that come to us, they talk about productivity, and they say, one of the questions is, what's going wrong with the business? Let's deep dive into it and find out how we can prescribe a remedy for this so that they can keep the business operational and keep your workforce going. It's very disruptive, artificial intelligence and machine learning, is that we're not here to displace 500 humans from jobs, eliminate certain industries. We need to find ways to work together and upskill. It's really important that we think that way.
So what are you suggesting? What are you showing besides telling the company, all right, we can invest in people? What should we be focusing our investments on? Should we be getting people to learn AI and to develop, or should we be getting people to get better at problem solving? Because that's what most business is just really our ability to cope and solve problems 9 times out of 10, rather for an industry or individual.
Yeah, there's many ways to look at it. I'll give you an example, and it's like some people have been doing the same job for the last 15 years, okay? And you might have separate departments, everybody doing their own jobs, but what's the difficulty of multi-training them or cross-training them so that you can switch departments? If maybe you get a couple of team members that are off one day, you can have 2 other team members go in there because they've got the skill set to go in there. And rather than, oh, this is not working, we can't find the resources, we don't have the skill, why don't you upskill them? And you have to look at the business and dive deep into the business and say, we've got X amount of employees, and how do we train them on doing that so that they're all working effectively, they're all doing something together, rather than just finding a way to remove it completely. When did it become the case where we were more interested in machines and replacing, and then humanity? It was humanity that built everything around here. It's important it's so important.
I think that's a great question. I think because we're so greedy, the machine doesn't cost as much in terms of healthcare or labor, or it doesn't talk back. It doesn't take long breaks. We input, it spits out. It doesn't need to figure it out. And so people are, and then it's new. So I'm getting a level of production at a more rapid pace, but I'm losing the human touch to what it is that I'm attempting to develop to sell to a market of humans. It's like, sorry for using another sports analogy, analytics in baseball, or analytics in basketball, or analytics in football. They're driven by numbers, but what they don't take in consideration is the heart of the person on their team. If I need 2 yards and it's 4th down and the analytics say pass the ball, it's easier to pass the ball, or 70% of the time if you do a short 3-yard pass, as opposed to trying to run, but the analytics doesn't take into consideration that this guy behind me, who I'm going to hand the ball to, he thrives at pushing through that for those 2 yards. The paper can't tell you because it doesn't take into consideration what happens to the individual once you put them to the test. That's what's going to be missing, right? If we don't cross-train and make utility people such as what you're saying.
I like that you used the sports example, Naron, because it's a great example of the use of data analytics to improve human skill. So if you look at, let's take 10 years ago, let's take the NBA. And you look at basketball now, what they know now, in terms of they're wearing this kit, they can tell how many jumps they've made, how many passes they've made, all these different things. So, I remember watching a video, and they were talking about how when a basketball player, they can only turn a certain way. So what they've used is the data to make sure that the player can turn both ways easier without damaging the body. So it's 2 things there. It's complementing the human and it's upskilling the human. And these industries and these sports, if you look at how far they've advanced over the last 10 years, even their nutrition, they can tell which nutrition plan they should be on, when they're feeling good, what foods are affecting them. They've got all these, they're recording everything. And it's just that businesses and organizations have not seen it that way. If they could have their employees fit all the time, if they could have their employees upbeat all the time, looking after themselves all the time. There's so much crap out there now in terms of diets, exercise. These things have just been overlooked. People are now on medication. Businesses have a responsibility to be saying, how many people in our organization are on permanent medication? And are we causing them to be on medication? If we are causing them to be on medication, how do we solve that problem? How do managers identify that their workforce needs medication to come into work? What their diet's like? I believe that we're weakening humanity and we're not acting on it quick enough. If you take a football player or an American basketball player or soccer player, whatever, football player, and you look at how advanced they are in comparison to the day-to-day worker, it's unbelievable. And it's because they've used that set of data and that mindset to advance humans, to say we know the game's going to be played by humans. We know that that's going to sing. How can we make them better? How can we keep them fitter for longer? How can we go 30 games a season? How can we ensure that they're getting the best rest and the best recovery and X, Y, Z? Are businesses doing that? Are businesses making sure that they're getting the best rest, the best recovery? They don't know because they're not deep diving into it enough. They're not asking the questions. And they're quick to say, oh, we need to replace this. We need to get rid of humans because they're not performing. Well, you've not allowed them to perform. You've not given them the opportunity to perform at their best. There's this mindset that people are in jobs and keep them in that job forever. Let's not train them. Let's not advance them because let's keep them doing that job. And if you look at the spectrum and the great equalizer, like I like to call social media, there's people out there recognizing that we don't have to be in that job that much more. They're looking on social media and they're upskilling themselves and they're advancing themselves and they're integrating with technology. So for example, social media, they're going on Instagram and they're learning, they're watching people, what's going on. They're going on YouTube and their algorithms feeding them full of more and more knowledge on how to sell or how to market, so they're advancing themselves because they realize that that's the answer out. But there's still this group of individuals that are stuck in that workplace that are not being advanced. And we as individuals and business owners have a responsibility to upskill people. That should be our responsibility. And I don't think that enough attention is being paid to it.
It's funny that you say that. So at first glance, one would probably think that you're anti AI or anti advancement in that area, which you say, no, let's use the technology to make the people better. Because if we replace people in the workforce, then we're going to have another problem on our hand, which we started the show. And when I do the dialogues, I never know what I'm going to dialogue about. I don't know how the homelessness and stuff, but that's going to be the result, is the Hunger Games. We're going to have people that are out when we go to Walmart, when we go to stores now, everything is computer generated. Those jobs used to go to college students. Those jobs used to go to people who didn't have the educational means. Those jobs, now they have no place for them. Because if everything is generated by a machine, then those jobs help supplement elderly Social Security. And I don't think, and as you're saying, I don't think that we're mindful of all that is happening in front of us. And we don't start to talk about it until it's too late and it becomes a pandemic or a crisis, right? Because if people are not being fed by the system, they're going to figure out a way out to eat. And that's how we develop lawlessness. And we develop a lot of psychosomatic issues that comes along with not being able to provide.
Yeah. Humanity, Naron, is programmed to evolve. You're programmed to evolve, not to be replaced. I'm not anti artificial intelligence. I'm not anti machine learning. My main business is machine learning. But you have to use machine learning to benefit humanity. It no longer can be the case that, businesses get away with not recognizing that they have a responsibility to do so. And everybody's looking for exactly what you said, Naron. They're looking for the easy way out. They're not having to deal with emotions. They're not having to deal with moods or personalities, etc. But that's life. That's the beauty of life. Is dealing with different personalities, speaking with people, and what is this world really if it without humans? What is it really? Even now for kids, I've got 2 kids, 6 and 3, both boys, and I watch them. And I was having this conversation with my friend earlier today, and as we used to entertain ourselves all the time, play figures. We were into the WWF, the WE is called now, and we'd play figures and we'd fight and we'd make stuff and go out on our bikes. And now they just want to watch either YouTube or they want to do iPads and Roblox and all these kind of things. Is that we're programming our kids from a young age that, there's more excitement in the screen and there's more, etc. Whereas we should be trying to upskill them as well. Like I give them a bit of time here and then I'll detox them for a few days and they won't have it. And they're fine with that. But my point being is that we're looking towards the technology as a savior, and it's a savior to us, and it's not the case. It's that people have become complicit and lazy in terms of honouring their roles and responsibilities to their workforce, and that is it's a dangerous game when we start to look down that way.
It's funny, WWE. I used to like Jimmy Superfly Snuka, and but it's funny.
Remember that?
Yeah. How we used to make games up from our minds, right? We used to use Play-Doh to create things with our hands, and the Play-Doh would come in a bunch. And some people were good at creating stuff. Some people, Lego blocks, some people were good at creating a little house, and other people weren't good. They didn't really use that side of their brain that way. But we still stimulated that side. There was an attempt to stimulate that side of the brain. Now everything for youth, my youngest son is 10. My oldest son is 20. And even from me parenting a 20-year-old and now a 10-year-old, when my 20-year-old was 10 years ago, 8 to 10 years, we could go outside, think he could find a pick a basketball game. And now the 10-year-old now has to be on the team. Everything is structured. No one is outside just playing. Everyone is trying to be the next whatever, when all of those things were birthed out of the imagination from us as 10 years old. By the time we was 13, we knew we wanted to take the sport seriously or not. When we put that pressure of structure, organized, everything got the there's no imagination that's being developed. There's no passion that can be developed neither, because I don't know what I am, because everything that I do, I'm doing it from the place that I'm supposed to be successful on the level that the instructor is telling me that this is the level of success.
Yeah, it's crazy. We're so programmed now. There's no. Just let people enjoy it. Let them work and be the best they can be. We're feeding them full of crap to start with, in terms of nutrition, and we're weakening their own imagination because they're so plugged in. And it's right over. If we go back to exactly what we spoke about at the start, is that there's so much pressure on parents now, or families now, that they don't have the time to actually sit down and stop and think what's actually going on here. And take it back to the employer again, is that they have a responsibility so that they are being educated at work and upskilled at work so that they can share that knowledge or that enthusiasm when they go home. And I think that, again, back to, it's like we're looking towards getting machines in there and replacing people, and saying it's all right, you don't have to think anymore, the machine's going to do it for you. And we need to step away from that.
Yeah. If we don't, so when you go in and you work with corporations, what are some of the first things that you like to monitor? Or what are even if you're working with an individual, what are some of the things that you like to get them aspiring to become or looking at?
I like them to understand, first of all, that the machine's not going to give you all the answers, because unless you have all the data, the machine can't make a fully informed decision. It can only make a decision based on what the data it has, and it doesn't know if data is missing or not. So when we go into a business, we select the parameters that will create a little bit of a win for the company, so that people can understand the benefit of data. So for example, we would collect parameters from HR, operations, health and safety, and analyze that specific data to say, this is what we've recognized, it's what's going on in the business, and this is how we're going to solve that problem. Show them the benefit of it, and then get them to buy into it and go from there. One of the things that we've noticed recently is that there's a massive increase in cardiac issues in certain workplaces, and we have to be cautious because we have to ensure that we're getting the correct data from the HR department. So when we collect the data, we are then able to make an informed decision on if anybody else has experiencing these cardiac problems, and is it a result of maybe the work activity? Has something changed in their lives? So we as employers then look at what policy do we need to change. Do we need to introduce extra health surveillance, a different kind of medical? So we look to say, by that would be a win for us, so that if people were experiencing cardiac problems, then we can look to solve that, so that it has an impact both on them in the workplace and their home environment. They might go home and they're totally exhausted, or they're not feeling themselves. So we have the responsibility to fix what's going on there, so it reflects in the home life as well.
So how are you helping these industries or industry leaders to assist the employee? Like for me, I teach mindfulness and yoga and stuff, but I'm finding that in certain industries, there's a resistance to bringing someone in to work with the people in those areas. I'm hearing of how there's a group of industry leaders that's trying to take on a Google model, where they would give people breaks throughout the day, reducing workloads that they realize is stressful, allowing people to work from home more and be bi-commutal at home and in work. And they're trying things, having people work less hours and spend more time with family and all of these things, because they realize that just having a person around doesn't affect the bottom line, and healthy, happier people actually can increase the bottom line. There's a lot of studies and science coming out around that. What are you saying to clients concerning?
So we look at we look at the data, and I'm a big believer that we're still living in this 9-to-5 model. Okay, the 9-to-5 model maybe doesn't suit every business anymore. Have a break at 11:15, and then you have a break at 3:15, and then you finish off at 5:00. It doesn't necessarily mean that's the best way to do things. you have to analyze when is the most production happening, when are people most engaged, depending on what the work activity is. It really depends on what the actual job is. So, for example, if it was engineers working in the oil rig or whatever it may be, and they were only engaged for X amount of time throughout the day and there was no engagement there, then are they really present to do the work activity? Could we not compress the work activity, and then instead of giving a 15-minute break, they were on a 2-hour break, and then they did another 4 hours? I've just come back from Spain, and their model is they work from 9 till 1 o'clock, and then they close the door from 1 till 4, and they go home, spend some time with their family, then they open up the store again from 4 to 8, and it's really a productive model because they can't operate in that heat. So that model works best for them. But in the UK, so many businesses that I go to see to is, oh, we're working hours 8 to 4. When was the last time that was changed? Oh.
Mm. Mhm. Mm. Mhm. But the old model is, if I'm going using a biblical model, but when Pharaoh wanted to oppress, it's an oppressive model. So when Pharaoh wanted to oppress Israel, according to the biblical narrative, he didn't just start beating them. He sent somebody to watch them work. He sent middle management. And the middle manager sat on the horse and looked down at them all day. And then it started there. So we have that hierarchy just sitting there looking at us. I got to go to the bathroom. Like, can I go use the bathroom? It's time for your break. You're coming back late from lunch. So that whole system has to be destroyed. I'm going to use an industry like teaching. Like the New York City fought hard during COVID because a huge part of the budget goes into education, which is good, but it's not going into the child's education. It doesn't go into per seat per child. It goes into the hierarchy of principal, assistant principal, superintendent, and all of this middle management stuff. By the time the budget trickles down to the children, they have archaic books, classrooms, and and crowded classrooms. So when a parent now during COVID had the responsibility of making sure doing the homeschooling, if that stayed on, that system is broken. So now how can we justify paying the principal all this money when all they're doing, what are they facilitating? The middle management model is broken. They don't have to sit over and lord over the teacher, who lords over the children, who lords over. So we got to bring them back into the classroom. It doesn't matter if they get COVID, just let them stay home. If they not feeling good, just bring, as long as they can have COVID, but as long as they're feeling okay, just send them anyway, because things are better now and we can't have the system broken. Instead of fixing it, we want to put a band-aid on it so that we can stay with the model because this is the model. Yeah, it's funny. Speaking of like archaic systems and things that we hold on to, I said to someone a couple of, I said this, used this analogy a couple of times. Can you imagine if Mozart came to this time and he was in our car and we turned on the radio and he's like, "What is that?" We're like, "That's music. That's music. That's music." Right? But it's music. So they had to start to identify. Oh no, this is class. Mozart. What you did was classical music. This is modern music, but it's music. It's it's a form of rhythmic patterns that has been condensed. And I don't like using the word dumbed down, but has been dumbed down to fit the mode of the mindset of the people today. So when I hear a beautiful piece of classical music and I listen to all the intricacies and all the things, realizing that somebody actually sat down and wrote each one of those parts out and they heard those highs, they heard those lows, they heard the syncopations of voices along with the trumpets and all. And and when you see the sheet, it's like, and this became their pattern, they did all day. That type that one, they didn't have all of the distractions, so they were able to tap into that to that part of their brain, which caused them to imagine, which caused them, and they spent that was their passion and their life work, and they became good at it, almost like a machine. Yeah. Oh yeah. Mm. And it's important, yeah, having conversations like this is fruitful. And some people say they're just conversation, but what conversation does is it drives thought, and we can shape our thoughts and we can shape everything around. All right, so what are some of the things that like what you're doing, and being able me being able to share in conversation with you about how you're helping. You're not just talking about it, but you're actually going in and you're bringing solutions um, to a problem that can become a plague. Yeah, it can't just be to make a profit. What books are we reading? Yeah. What's your book? No, no. Listen, I like to ask that question because people don't read anymore. Yeah, you're a sharp person, and you have to be on top of your game when you go out and speak in front of the masses. You need to know your stuff. So, it helps sharpen the mind. I thank you for this time that we spent. This was a fruitful conversation. I'm glad that we worked through our echo problem. Yeah, and I like the fact and that we were able to really have this beautiful dance, not just around industry but around humanity. And you're where you are, negative 2 degrees of weather, and I'm over here. And the first thing I said was like, "Oh man, it's cold today. It's 50 something degrees here." Yeah, it's hot. Yeah, that's hot, right? Wow, you got on your t-shirt. Yeah, I'm like, nah, so, so, but that's it's perspective, right? And as we continue to grow, perspective. When I first started the podcast, I didn't imagine having guests that I can talk to around it because I can only see in the city, right? So I tried to grab people that was close to me. Come to the studio and let's have a sit down conversation. And COVID helped me to open up my imagination from my 2 mile radius, from my small incubation, from what it is that I experienced every day. And now I can reach out and touch with you and the work that you're doing, which is an amazing work over where you are, and we can have this conversation. This beautiful piece of art. This is the new art, um, uh, and this is where we are now. And I really appreciate you sharing with us. Well, guys, you can walk any way that you choose to walk. All of the information for Shakeel is going to be in our description. If you're in business and you need to do an audit, you will need to sit down and figure out what it is that you should be doing. Make sure you click that link, get your sit down, make sure that you um, take that take your business seriously, and see how you can scale up, because you don't have to be where you are, and you don't have to panic and just start running and starting to add all these AI solutions that may not be necessary for you. Sometimes you just got to look within your organization, and Shakeel, sorry, is here to help you to navigate through that. You can choose to walk anywhere that you want to walk. Some people like to walk in excuses, but those of you who are part of our family, we walk in victory. Your substance to us is your like and your subscribe. So do your part, hit subscribe, and tell somebody that we are here anywhere that podcasts can be heard. And I look to hear from you. Peace.
This has been another episode of Walk in Victory podcast, where we sit you at the feet of the masters. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and found inspiration and valuable insights to apply to your own life. If you did, please show us some love by liking and subscribing to the podcast. Your support helps us reach more people and share more stories of triumph over adversity. Until next time, keep walking towards victory. And don't forget to follow us on social media for updates and behind-the-scenes glimpses of our episodes.